Good evening, everyone. It's a beautiful day. It's a glorious day. Today, I'm going to be continuing on where I stopped last week while I was looking at the start of the new book that we are considering, which is Thinking for a Change by John Maxwell. Some of us who are into leadership will probably have known who John Maxwell is. John Maxwell used to be the founder of Enjoy Corporation, which he has sold now, and used to be a pastor in Skyline Wesleyan Church in America. But he's a leadership training. That organization which he sold was a leadership training organization. So John Maxwell has written so many books on leadership, quite a number of them, among which was Failing Forward, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, which are New York bestsellers list, I beg your pardon. So today I'm going to continue where I stopped last week on the Thinking for Change. I may be able to recap. Listen, what he's saying, what he's teaching us, what we're learning from this book is the ability to be able to change our thinking. If you want to change our result, it doesn't start by changing our actions per se, but it starts by changing our thinking. And our ability to be able to change our thinking will go a long way to adjust our results. So it's a question of paradigm shift. Is basically that's what that means today. That's what that thinking for a change, changing our thinking. That's what or what it means. Now, today I'm going to start looking into all those 11 qualities, 11 things, 11 ways, particularly that highly successful people, 11 ways highly successful people approach life and work. So I'm going to start by looking at, I think we may just do this also for another 4 weeks because of, now to me, I don't think it's of any value to have to rush through the book since you are not reading the book. Even though I would encourage you to go get the book, buy it and let it be part of your library, but being able to read it is critical because of what uses it. If you have the book and you are not able to get the value that has been communicated through the book, so you can get it from Amazon, and it will be a great way for you increasing your library and being having it available within reach anytime you want to make a reference from the book. However, without much ado, what we do on this Awaken the Leadership in You broadcast is to be able to look at the summary of the book so that you can understand the structure. If you can understand the structure, it becomes quite easy, much easier for you to be able to, well, if you're somebody who think in structure, who think in system, if you're somebody who likes to have things in terms of you think in figures, it helps you. It will help you broadly. So tonight we're just going to look at the first three ways that highly successful people approach life and work. And you see, in the process as well, I like to also I like to bring the scriptural slant to it, even though John Maxwell was a pastor, is a believer, and is still a believer. And but he wrote this from the general angle of principles, the angle of general principles of God to creation. Not he didn't laden this book with scriptures. No, he rather even quoted a lot from philosophers. Somebody like Ralph Waldo Emerson and John Locke, even from James Allen, the guy who wrote the book of Streams of Income. So multiple streams of income. So he quoted from people who are also espousing principles. So today, I'm going to look at those. I'm going to look at, I hope I'll have time to be able to do that actually. I'm going to look at the first three ways, which the first one is thinking about the big picture, how you can gain wisdom by injecting a holistic perspective into your thinking. And then the second way I'm going to look at is also use tightly focused thinking. Now, there is that sounds contrast, like a contrast. It means then that you must be able to look at things in a big picture, but at the same time, you must also be able to look at things in a narrow way. Focused thinking, that is being able to take away distraction. When first of all you try with the big picture, but you must be able to shift from the big picture and narrow it down and be able to focus with a laser beam focus manner, and then thinking creatively. Because if you use tightly focused thinking, which is the second way, you will be able to take away all the clutter. You'll be able to concentrate on the real issue. And also, if you think creatively, you'll be able to think outside the square to come up with some original ideas. That is what creativity allows for. So let me start now with the first thinking that you got to have to do to help you to be able to uh, follow the path of highly successful people in the way they approach life and in the way they also approach work. So remember, again, this is thinking about the big picture. So how can you gain wisdom? By injecting a holistic perspective. You may have heard that word of holistic. Holistic. It just means understanding that things happen in context and trying to understand the context in which things happen. Also, even trying to understand the concept of the people who are achieving things. Now, we may not have similar context, we may have different contexts. However, everything happens in context. Even when God speaks into context. So that's the reason why it's not advisable for anybody to follow others closely without you being able to give a room between the people you are the person you are following and yourself, because their context is completely different to your context. Now, there's nothing wrong in following people, but you must be able to know where you need to draw the boundaries. How far can you go? Yes, the scripture even encourages us to do that. He said in Hebrews 6:12 that is, you should not be slothful, but be diligent and be followers of those who through faith and patience have inherited the promises. So you could see scriptural example or admonition there for you to follow people that are doing something with their life. But you got to have to be diligent. Being diligent means being able to know how to decipher what you need to take from them and what you don't need to take from them. So you're not taking anything or everything hook, line, and sinker. You are able to say, no, I don't want that. This is what I prefer to get from his life. So thinking with the big picture means you got to have to understand the big picture, the context. Because big picture thinking means to see the world beyond your own pressing demands and requirements. It means to bring to bear the broader perspective of more important considerations. You see, this is usually what happens when a crisis hits, either personal crisis or family crisis or national crisis. You got to have to be able to think on a bigger picture. So people who see the bigger picture take a top-down view of the world rather than getting caught up in the demands and emotions of the present moment. This means being open-minded in any situation and willing to consider new ideas and possibilities. You see, what that also translates to is the fact that you got to have to get out of yourself and be able to view things, not being subjective all the time, but being objective. In actual fact, being objective first before you can become subjective. Because if you are always subjective, so that means you are only seeing things alone from your perspective. So you won't be able to see things in the broader perspective. You won't be able to see the big picture, which highly successful people do by the way they approach life and by the way they approach their work. They are able to detach themselves temporarily, albeit to be able to view things in an holistic way and see the big picture. And I think that's exactly what God does also for us. In fact, I was meditating on this possibility. I was meditating on this particular principle. And what came to my mind was the opening of the Bible itself. The whole of the Bible, Genesis 1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's the big picture. But what did God do? He now began to narrow it down to the earth. He didn't tell us how he created the heavens, but he gave us the broad picture. He gave us the broad picture of his creation, that heaven was created in the same manner in which the earth was created, but heaven preceded the earth. So that's the opening of the Bible. And you could also see that that's God's approach to say, look, this is the big picture. But now let's concentrate on the earth. And from verse 2, it began now to tell us the process and the procedures by which he created the earth, so that that helps us to be able to see that it started with a big picture, but it narrows it down to the the earth. And even in the earth issue, it further narrows it down to all the systems. It narrows it down to the procedures, to the processes, to the change management theories that he applied. And you could see everything that he then began to say from verse 2 of Genesis chapter 1. They follow a logical sequence. Everything follows a logical sequence. So, specifically, big picture thinkers, they are good leaders because they can size up a situation and inspire people to seize the moment. They see a bigger picture than their present situation. If you're going to be a leader worth following, if you're going to be a leader that is worthy of being followed by others, you got to have to see beyond the immediate circumstances of your surrounding, your immediate environment, to encompass a bigger environment and to see how the bigger environment impacts on your immediate environment. So big picture thinkers, they stay on target rather than bouncing from one objective to another all the time. They stay on target. Also, they see things from the other person's point of view. They may not necessarily accept, but they try to see. But you see, the moment you can see from other person's point of view, you have already bought them. And you can acknowledge the fact that, okay, I see, you've already won them over. You've already won them to your side. But then you can then have a twist to say, okay, though this is the way you see it, but what about this blind spot? What about that blind spot? What about this other area? So the people who are big picture thinker, they see things from the other person's point of view, allowing them to concede minor points in order to gain the larger victories. Because the moment you can see from other people's point of view, you've already won them over. And then you can then, in the pool of things, you can, in the concentration of the total of the bigger picture, you can tell them, you can help them to expand their perspectives. So big picture thinkers like and encourage teamwork. They help people see where their input fits into the grander scheme of things. That's because you have already brought in other thinking, other people point of view. You brought it into your consideration. Also, big picture thinkers never get caught up in the mundane because they never lose sight of their ultimate aim. They don't get into the drudgery of things. They don't get into the nitty-gritty of things. Sometimes they do, but just not to say, that's just to help them to understand the bigger picture, how things are built up to make a bigger picture. So they are also willing to move into uncharted territory. Uncharted territory. To become a better and more effective big picture thinker, you need to become comfortable with ambiguity. Since success often requires the juggling of contradictory aims, strive for greater experience, not certainty in everything you do. Greater experience. Striving for greater experience helps you so much more to become comfortable with ambiguity, because life is about ambiguity actually as well. Ambiguity means, yes, you see from one perspective, but others, it's like the case of an elephant. Uh, Different blind people were asked to describe an elephant. One was holding the tail, describe the elephant as an animal with big tail. Was he wrong? He was right, but he's not seeing the big picture because he's blind. So he's seeing it from his own perspective of where he's touching the elephant. The other was touching his trunk and saw the trunk is quite flexible. Describe the elephant from the trunk. Other was touching the feet of the one of the feet of the elephant and say, "Woo, has a very big. It must be a massive because his feet, one of his foot is as big as this." They are all right, but not totally right. So it's because they are seeing it from their individual angle of the experience or of touching the elephant. So ambiguity is all what life is about, but it's also a good leader. Highly successful people will able to see how to accommodate those ambiguities and to resolve those ambiguities. So also, you become a better and more effective big picture thinker if you attempt to learn something beneficial from each and every experience. So all experiences of life are not all that bad, even the negative ones. There are something good that can come out of it. Now, in the book or in the Bible, in Romans chapter 8, verse 28, he said, and we know that all things work together for good for them that love God and are the called according to his purpose. What that means is that God's purpose in our life cannot be truncated if you love God, because God will turn things around that eventually things that are meant for evil in our life can turn it around for good. Joseph's life experience is a good example in the sense that you had a dream. Imagine it was you having a dream at 17-year old. You could see how immature you could be at 17 years. You didn't know everything. But sometimes we think we did. I can remember in my 17-year-old time what I used to think. Being 30 was still far away, 40, not even to talk about 50. Anybody celebrating 40, celebrating 50, oh, they are like Methuselahs, they are like granddads to me. However, as a 17-year-old, Joseph as a 17-year-old boy, thinking God, giving him dreams, two dreams highlighted in Genesis chapter 37 of him. I mean, the essence of the whole dream is the fact that God is taking him to a big place in which his family will have to be subservient, so to say, to him, or will have to bow to him. He will have to kind of lead his family. But you can imagine, as a 17-year-old boy having that dream, the trajectory of that dream or of that reality or of that vision will be everything was going to be hunky dory. After all, he's going to a big place. He's going to become somebody that others bow to. But what is shocker? It's shocker for him to experience going to the pit, being sold as a slave, going to the prison, eventually arriving as a prime minister in Egypt. So you got to have to understand that every experience in life is what God uses for you to get to where He's taking you. Or even where you are right now, it's not an accident. It may look like it's inconvenient and it's uncomfortable, but the purpose of God works on the inside of us because He works on the outside of us. And guess what? We're not an easy thing for God to work overnight. It takes time. Sometimes I look at myself and say, God, why am I slow in learning? I think I am slow in learning because maybe the same teaching, maybe the same lesson God is trying to teach me is taking me a long time to come to realize that, oh, this is what he's been trying to teach me. But that is because of the fact that, listen, we are biased in our thinking. Our thinking pattern sometimes takes time for you to change. It takes time for you to move. It takes time, and God is ever patient with us. If He ever deals with us as we would like to deal with others, we will be destroyed. See the name He called Jacob. Say, "Oh, thou worm, Jacob." So God saw him as a worm that he needs to be careful with. Even though he was aware of the cancer, he was aware of the destiny that God has for him, and he wanted to do it with him. He wanted to do it by himself, but God was patient with him. Do you know how many years he spent at his father-in-law's place? He had the promise of greatness upon him. He knew his older brother was going to serve him, but he wanted to fulfill everything by himself. Or if not for the encounters that God was giving, and also even everything that he had was not going to happen in his lifetime anyway. But he thought, well, he could help God to do that, and God had to be very patient with him. So you see, in Genesis chapter 28, where he struggled, no, I think in Genesis chapter 32, when he was coming back, yes, where his hip was dislocated, that was indicative of the fact that that's what the struggle he had with God all his life. And struggling with God, we do, all of us do struggle with the counsel of God, struggle with the will of God. We thought we have received. What God usually does is to give us the hand. But how we're going to get there, He won't tell us. So He takes us through twists and turns, twists and turns, twists and turns. And the purpose He takes us through twists and turns is to be able to align our character, to prepare our character for the weight of the glory that is ahead of us. So, a big picture thinker would attempt to learn something beneficial from each and every experience of his life, whether good, bad, or ugly, because both positive and negative results will help you see the bigger picture. Oh, I can't tell you that it's going to be rosy all along, because I've been in it and I'm still in it. More than 30 years of promise. And you're saying, God, when? God, when? But you got to see the big picture that, listen, where God is taking you is far bigger than your natural ability. And God has to prepare you for the place. He has to prepare you for the throne. He has to prepare you for the position. So to become a better and more effective big picture thinker, in the thinking for a change that we are looking at based on the book written by John Maxwell, you also got to be willing to gain insight from a wide cross section of people. So everybody you come across, you know they are not accidents, and you can learn from them. The good, the bad, and the ugly people. You can learn from everybody. You can gain insight. You can gain wisdom from your interaction with everybody that you come across. You can learn from the experiences of others rather than just yours alone. In actual fact, I like to tell the young people to say, listen, don't learn everything from your own experience, because it will be too late for you to catch up with wisdom if all what you want to do is to learn from your own experiences. So what you are saying is that you prefer to make all the mistakes in life for you to learn how not to do it the way in which you have made mistakes. So this is the reason why God puts people around you. This is the reason why God makes you to meet certain people, so you can learn from their own ways. Of what use is it? It is foolhardy to say you want to make mistakes. Your father lived before you. Your father has gained certain experiences. A wise son will listen to the words of the father and will be able to what? Enculturate, or will be able to accommodate the words of the Father to recontextualize it into his own life and see that, my Father's wisdom is a leverage for me to be able to get better and to move further. Or it could be your teacher, it could be your mother, it could be your brother, it could be other people. The key thing here is being willing to learn from another, being willing to listen, because today's young people, they don't want to listen. They think they know everything. But there is a saying in my language that says that you may have as many clothes as an adult, but you never have as many rags as an adult, because rags is a picture of experiences that they have gone through. You have to use clothes to become rags. So you could never really have as many rags as you've had of clothes with your father or with your sister or with anybody who's gone ahead of you. So a wise person would always leverage the experiences of those who have gone ahead of him. Say, no, don't do it that way. That's what a big picture thinker does. Leverages the insight uh, of from a wide cross section of people. People leverages the experiences of others other than just yours alone. And how do you do that? By asking questions, by speaking to other people. Also, to become a better and more effective big picture thinker. Big picture thinker is what God is. His eyes cover everything. See what he says. He says in the book of Isaiah that the whole world is like a bucket of water before him. That means he can see everything. And as much as he can see everything, he can also narrow down his eyes to see an ant that is moving on the earth. He created the ant. Have you seen how small an ant is? And yet, ant is thinking processes. I wonder how he's able to do it. Have you tried to debar an ant going in certain ways in a straight line, and then the ant gets to where there is a barrier and then turns around? And you begin to think that these people these ants have intelligence. This particular one also has an intelligence. The ant recognizes a barrier and sees how it can walk around the barrier. So we are better than ants. We are created in the image of God. So we see things in a bigger picture, in a bigger perspective. But we also have to build on that. So to become more effective, big picture thinker, a better and more effective big picture thinker, you have to be prepared to go against the flow sometimes and give yourself the permission to expand your world that most people deny themselves. Aspire to rise above the status quo to become uncommonly good at what you do. What that means is this: you got to have to know how to think outside the box. And oftentimes, when you think outside the box, people can't see your logics, people can't see your reasoning, people can they may be against you, they may think that it's getting it wrong, but you can see clearly. I was reading the story. Okay, my wife sent me a WhatsApp of a guy. I've forgotten what the man is. Is a Ghanaian guy that goes across Africa, chronicling the achievement of Africans from one nation to the Maya or Mawa, Muye, something like that. But I love the thing she's saying. It was a story of a young man who was in the university studying law, and his final year, he had been seeing that in the streets of Ghana, maybe Kumasi or Accra or what, that the coconut husk, the coconut husk, after drinking the coconut water from the husk, from the coconut itself, they cut the hair, you drink the water, and they throw away the husk. And he discovers the husk is just littering everywhere. So he thought of, in fact, he actually went somewhere and he saw a woman using the husk as a wood. And he thought, this thing can be used for coal as coal. Today, he makes the husk. He makes coals from the husk. And he started by experimenting. In fact, he had to use his school fee for his last year in the university as a law student to start the business. He has a big warehouse now. He's the only one in the whole of Africa. And you see all those nations on the west coast of Africa. For there not to be one person who could have thought of that. So, what part of what he does now is create coals from husk and exports them. What they think is thinking outside the box. Meanwhile, when he started, everybody thought he was crazy. Everybody thought he was mad. Everybody thought a university student. And you see, for our continent, that continent of Africa, or any continent that has progressed and that moved forward, there have to be people who think outside the box and create, people who are creative, people who blaze the trail for others to follow. people who think, people who will be considered as people who go against the flow. And some of our children do show some characteristics of that thinking. But sometimes we suppress them. What are you talking about? Please, let's begin to encourage them. Or you have always been thinking outside of the box all this while, but you have not had time to be able to materialize it or to act it out. It's not too late for you. It's not too late for you. So it is important that you are able to. It is important that you are able to. Well, I just saw that the audio was not. Somebody texted me on Facebook to say the audio needs to be increased. That's what I just did. So you must be prepared to go against the flow. That's what this book is teaching as well. If you're going to think for a change, you must be prepared not to stream with the crowd, not to flow with the crowd, but to counter stream, to stream against the flow. You have to think anyway, so why not think big? That was Donald Trump. Long before he became the president of the United States. And the man is actually different, truly, in his thinking. His thinking doesn't go with the general flow of the people he's actually leading. For somebody to become a billionaire, he didn't. He must have gone. He thinks outside of the box. Now that does not call for you to decide whether you like him or not. I'm just saying what he does. Okay, because some people may throw up by me saying using him as an example, but he's somebody that can be used as an example. He's an achiever. He is an achiever. Okay, so you've got to think about big things while you are doing small things, so that the small things go in the right direction. That is Avi Toffler, is an author. Winston Churchill also said this. There comes a special moment in everyone's life, a moment for which that person was born. When he seizes it, it is his finest hour. So we all have our finest hour. But it takes us thinking outside of the box to be able to seize that finest hour. And John Maxwell in his book also says, if you desire to seize new opportunities and open new horizons, then you need to add big picture thinking to your abilities. Big picture thinkers don't let the grind get to them because they don't lose sight of the all important overview. A young man sat before me today. He said he's been reading the book of Acts, and that I said, so what did you get from the book of Acts? But he was only able to recount one incident in the book of Acts. So I knew what he needed. He needed to have the big picture of what the book of Acts is. So I said, okay, I'm going to send you PowerPoint, about 82-page PowerPoint that can help you to see the big picture. Because when you see the big picture, you're able to narrow down as well. You're able to see the pattern and the structure that is in the book of Acts as a book by itself. You see, that's exactly, in fact, that's the best approach to studying the scriptures, really. As opposed to just reading through the scriptures. It's good to read through the scriptures as well, because if you don't read through the scriptures, there is nothing that the Holy Spirit can bring to your remembrance. However, going beyond reading the scriptures, studying the scriptures makes you to understand how each book, like a bead, fits into one another to make a string of jewelry, or to make a jewelry that becomes decorative, that you can use to decorate your life. Because each book is a standalone book, though at the same time, they can also relate to the others. So doing that, understanding each book as a standalone and seeing how, because the one who penned the book wrote it completely as a book. It's just like any book you read, but even though this was inspired of the Holy Spirit, but having the big picture of the book, of the big book, of the book you are reading, helps you to be able to appreciate and know where what fits into where and what. So that's that about thinking about the big picture. Now, the second one is use tightly focused thinking. Now, tightly focused thinking is to encourage you to declutter, is to be able to take things that are not relevant to your thinking out of your way. There's some things you shouldn't even get involved with, that because you know it's just going to cause some distraction. Or there are some people you work with all the time and they are not getting certain things. And then, yes, you may have to have patience with some people, but sometimes you have to be able to draw the line when you see that the sense of commitment is not there as much as you want the sense of commitment, because you are giving your time to them. You're giving your time to things that you expect to have a change or a reapproach to the way things are done. So focused thinkers concentrate on the major issue and ignore all distractions. So you must be able to design what are major issues and what are minor issues, and to major in the major and don't major in the minor. Minor in the minor, but major also in the major. They know and understand both their niche and their dreams, and avoid stunting their progress towards key goals by wandering off into tangential or low priority areas. So it's the ability for discernment here. And discernment is a skill that you can acquire. And it comes through your thinking processes, really. So when companies develop successful new products and services, they focus on doing one thing well rather than a number of things poorly. Focus is just as important for individuals because focus harnesses energy. So in this way of how highly successful people, by which they approach life and work, this way of use tightly focused thinking means they know how to harness their energy to achieve something worthwhile and specific. Have you heard the saying that knowledge is power? But is it really true? If it is so, all of us should be very powerful. But you see, knowledge that is harnessed is what is power. What is power? Now we have internet here at the moment. Everybody goes on the internet, but there are better ways to harness the power of the internet, the knowledge of the internet for your own advantage that many of us don't even know of. Don't know of that it takes those who are already ahead and you join their league, and they begin to orient your thinking into the intrinsic value of the internet for your advantage, especially in business setup. That a new way is being redefined in our world today. That the traditional way of business is changing. The traditional way of making money is changing. Guess what? It has changed from agricultural age to industrial age, now technological age. If you don't know how to, you see, the industrial age was marked by the fact that you have to have products. You have to have products. You have to have land. You have to have money. You have to push a lot of physical product. That's not so anymore. Things are changing. It's mental product you have to push now. Services, mental product you have to push. And it's redefining the playing field of business work and business system. So you and I have to now say, how do I harness this knowledge that can help me? That you can be in the corner of your room and you are touching the whole world with goods and services. It means a re-engineering, it means a retraining, it means upskilling, hopping your skill now. But everybody knows, everybody's on everybody's going online, some go there just for fun. But is it just for fun? You should go there. There are over 2 billion people on the internet. So if you're going to use tightly focused thinking, you must know how to focus and how to use focus to harness energy to achieve something worthwhile and specific with your life. Now, focus thinking allows good ideas to be refined into great ideas. There is a difference between a good idea and great idea, because there is a difference between good company and great company. Jim Collins wrote a book, From Good to Great. Powerful book. We will review that book as well as one of these days, but let's first of all get the foundation of thinking right. We still have about 5 to 6 more books on thinking strategies, changing our thinking that we're going to use. We've started with the power thinking that was written by Cathy Block and John Mangeri. Yes, this is second book, Thinking for a Change, that we're looking at. So, focused thinking allows good ideas to be refined into great ideas as more refinements are incorporated over time. You see, you never get the idea, your original idea, right at the beginning. But as time goes on, as you are still focusing on that, guess what? You refine it. In fact, that guy whose story my wife sent to me by WhatsApp, what you see is that the guy started small with a can of milk to do a test on how the husk will burn without allowing it to become the ash, but allowing it to burn not with full oxygen. So he burnt it in a can, but by only just creating holes to allow little air to come in to turn the husk to turn it to brown. I mean to turn it to black charcoal. So charcoal is what he created. Charcoal that have not been fully burnt. Because when charcoal is fully burnt, it becomes ashes. So it turns the ox to charcoal, and this charcoal is now packaged and sent to different places whereby it's used for energy in the industry. And one of the ways of creating energy in United Kingdom before was coal. How they were exploring coal under the ground. Guess what? What that guy did is very creative, but he refines it as time goes on. So focused thinking also brings clarity. Focused thinking lays the foundation for success because no one achieves greatness by being a generalist. I once heard the man say, uh, instead of become a general wanderer, why don't you become a meaningful specific? You see, some of us, when we were in school, we were good at everything. But you know what? It could work against us, and it's worked against some of us who could not know what to focus on. We need to what? Channel our energy on to one thing, and we do it well. Do it well, whatever it is, one thing you know to do. Yeah, you could be good at everything. I heard Miles Monroe say that he's good at singing. When he was a teenager, it was a sensation in his country, Bahamas. But he had to decide what he wanted to do. He decided he wanted to be a speaker rather than a singer. Even though he's still good at singing, he plays guitar. He used to play dead now, anyway. But he focused on being a teacher of the word. And see, that was what launched him. So you could be a generalissimo, knowing how to do everything. But please don't be a jack of all trades and master of none. Master something and distinguish yourself through that mastery. And it's a question, it's something to me and to everybody, any one of you who is hearing me tonight. Master something and be good, be the best in that. Because no one achieves greatness by being a generalist. You got to have to be known for one thing. This is definitively the era of the specialist who makes a conscious decision to become good at one specific skill. What is the specific skill you would like to master? What is it that's passionate that you can become good at by focusing on that? I read of the story of a man. I actually watched his webinar. This guy studied everything that needed to be studied on Facebook and YouTube. Today he's a billionaire. He's into land and he's only just 32 years old. He was trying so many things, it didn't work, but he decided to restrict himself to one area of land purchase and land distribution and land selling, land sale. His company was 6 billion naira, Nigerian naira, and that's in millions. That's millions of pounds. within a few years because it just specializes on one area. You can also specialize, and you guess what? You have the resources available to help you to develop. Okay, so to become better and more effective at focused thinking, you need to decide what you should think about. You choose what you should think about. Don't let anybody force what you need to think on you. The areas of your life where you have the most potential to add value is what you should think about. This will usually be somewhere near the intersection of your priorities, your gifts, and your dreams. So, do you know your dreams? Have you articulated your dream? What about your gifts? What are your priorities? Now, though all of them, those three things need to sync because when they sync, it gives you a unique advantage, a USP, a unique selling point, a USP. It defines your uniqueness. So to become better and more effective at focused thinking, you also need to remove any and all distractions and mental clutter by having the ability to say no to the people and events which will add little value to your life. It may mean you being resolute or uh, being by yourself most times, but you are there cooking up things that will bring change and that will add values to the life of others. To become better and more effective at focused thinking, you also need to set aside blocks of uninterrupted time for focused thinking. It could be early in the morning, it could be in the night, it could be in the afternoon, but you're by yourself thinking and resolving issues. That the time I like to do that is when I'm praying. Because when I'm praying, I'm able to focus and I'm able to receive direction. Holy Spirit is able to help me to give me direction to say, okay, that present thing, why don't you do this? So why don't you try that? Why don't you do this? So you need to know how to remove any and all distraction and mental clutter. Or set aside blocks of interrupted time for focused thinking, where you concentrate on your number one priority task and put everything else on hold. Make it your goal to increase the amount of focused thinking time you have available every day. Thinking, thinking instead of doing. This is the age of mental prowess. This is the age of which those who are thinking are the ones that are leading the rest of us. So you got to have to then create time for more thinking. Also, to become better and more effective at focused thinking, you've got to keep your most important items of focus close at hand so you don't waste time gathering what you will need before you can go to work. You also need to set some goals and write them down. Your mind will not focus unless you specify clear and compelling objectives to work towards. Recently, I pasted some two things near my bed, and my son saw it and said, "Dad, what are those for?" I said, "That's my target for the next few years." So that's very good. That's very good. I've never done that before. I usually keep it in my head, but I realized that, listen, set it as a goal. As you are thinking, you are praying, and you are asking God to give you creative way to be able to achieve that. It's a desire. Your desire is your goal, but your goal has to be able to be broken down to achievable measures. Set some goals. In actual fact, vision is only spelt in goals. You have a vision for anything, it's got to have to be interpreted in goals. So also, to become better and more effective at focused thinking, you've got to have to regularly question your progress and consider whether you are getting a decent return on your investment of time. Anything you want to get, it takes an investment of time. Anything you want to become, it takes an investment of time. Time is a commodity that we spend on earth that God gives to each one of us. And time is something that, listen, all of us have and cannot be wasted, cannot be saved, can only be used. When it's gone, it's gone. It doesn't come back again. Two important things in your life, time and change. And change and time are interrelated. So you got to have to create time, what to for focused thinking, to set goals, to prioritize and see whether you are moving along your goals. You've also got to be willing to give up many of the things you love in order to focus on where you can make the greatest impact. Sometimes when I sit down watching certain programs, I have to speak to myself that I've watched enough. I need to go and read. I need to go and study. I need to go and inspect. I need to go and investigate on my laptop certain things. When I see Arsenal is taking me over, Arsenal Football Club, no, I just switch it off completely and focus on what I want to achieve. Now, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, concentration is the secret of strength in politics, in war, in trade, in short, in all management of human affairs. Concentration, focus, that's what that means, is the secret of achievement, is the secret of strength in politics, in war, in trade. Be focused. You start the focused thinking. David Picasso said, if you can't write your idea on the back of my business card, you don't have a clear idea. You don't have a clear idea. And John Maxwell, whose book we are summarizing and looking at, says as you get older and more experienced, the need to focus becomes more critical. The farther and the higher you go, the more focused you can be and need to be. So the older you are getting, the more focused you need to be. I was discussing with the pastor yesterday. I said, He said, wow, what are you studying at the moment? I said, bro, I'm just planning. I'll be hitting 60 in the next few years. I need to know where I am going and what I am doing. I said, all knowledge I want to gather now has to be not an end, has to be a means to an end. Knowledge is said by itself. I don't want it to be an end. My time is short for me to have knowledge to be an end. Well, of what use is that? It's got to have to be a means. So any knowledge that's not helping me to advance to achieve my goal, I don't want to be involved with it. I don't want to gather it. Now, third ways that we're looking at tonight is be realistic. Is thinking creatively. As I said to us, thinking creatively. Now, this question comes about with thinking creatively. How can you think outside the square to come up with some original ideas? Creative thinkers come up with new and original ideas. They celebrate the unusual, have different ideas, and try new things. Creativity usually means being prepared to go out on a limb and keep searching for new ideas that just might work. Another way you can put this is, if you want to think creatively, why don't you think on what already is existing and become innovative with it? That's the creativity by itself. That you can just look at existing. So why reinventing the wheel? But you can improve on what is already existing. So creativity is highly valued in business and in life. It can also add value to your personal life by helping you achieve more. Creative thinking can attract the people and the ideas you need to realize more of your goals. Creative thinking and innovation generally challenges the status quo to create the potential for a sustainable competitive advantage. So you see, competitive advantage is a factor in business that makes you that defines your uniqueness in the face of other opposition, in the face of other competitors. And we all have a unique advantage. We all have a competitive advantage only if you know how to articulate it and be able to package it and use it as a unique selling point, as I already said, to help you to make something worthwhile with your life. So many people have turned around similar impossible situations through some creative thinking. So creative thinkers generally have several character traits. They value new ideas, lots of new ideas. And guess what? Our minds produce great ideas every day in their hundreds. But maybe you can arrest one and inspect it and prospect it and see where it can lead you. As long as it's what? It is at the intersection of priorities, your gifts, and your dreams. So creative thinkers generally also like to explore the options because a multitude of possibilities always starts the creative instincts. Creative thinkers embrace ambiguity and uncertainty. They are not afraid of the unknown. They have overcome the force of inertia. They are They are not sitting back and waiting for somebody to start something. They go out on a limb. In other words, they blaze the trail. In other words, they are pioneers. They also celebrate the offbeat and the unusual. They enjoy trying to connect the unconnected, to come up with some original combination. They don't fear failure. People that are afraid of trying new things, it's like the Chinese proverb. If you are always afraid of failing, you will never throw the dice. But throw the dice. You want to throw the sixth? Well, you have to throw the dice first. If you don't throw the dice, then you will never know whether you will come up with six or not. That's not gambling. That is making an attempt, trying to achieve greatness, and see, like somebody say, reach for the stars, or reach for the sun. If you fall, you can't get to the sun. Then you get the stars, even though the sun is a big star himself. But what he's saying is that, listen, try something. Try something that is commensurate with your gift, with your priorities, with your dream. Try something. Come up with something. Creative thinkers enjoy trying to connect the unconnected. They come up with some original combination. That's what innovation is all about. They don't fear failure. And to become more creative in your own life and career, you have to be careful about what you say, because creative ideas will not come if you keep on telling yourself, I'm not creative. Your self-talk has to be positive. You've got to be able to talk to yourself positively, to encourage yourself, speak to yourself. You have to ask loads of questions about why things are done a certain way, what underlying problems have been addressed, and whether there are not better approaches which can be moved in from other fields. You have to develop an environment where creative ideas can flourish, where creativity is appreciated and encouraged, where there is a high degree of trust between team members, and where new ideas are taken and grown in an art house that we encourage them to flower. That is an environment. You got to have to seek for the environment that encourages. Through books you read, you can create an environment that encourage your creative thinking. You look for people who think outside of the box, like Elon Musk. Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla, the guy thinks outside of the box. Steve Jobs used to think outside of the box before he died. All these people that have become disruptors of technology, they think outside of the box. You've got to spend more time with other creative people by putting together a new ideas group and forming a nucleus of people who like generating ideas and taking them on. This can be done on a formal or informal basis, depending on your personal preferences. And lastly, you got to get out of your office and play a bit and discuss some of your self-imposed limitations. Travel somewhere new, read up on new subjects outside your area of specialization, put together a playroom filled with materials that encourage creative thinking. Try living, breathing, and heeding creativity for a while. Allow the people in your organization to invent their own job titles and encourage them to take on some risks. Look at more stuff and question why the world functions the way it does. Throw off some of the mental shackles you are not even aware of, and give your organization permission to come up with creative ideas. So you, as your own organization, get out of your rut. Try new things. Show interest in other things. You never know. You may be able to merge ideas from different fields to create a new field. I've come to the end of it for tonight. Awaken the leadership in you, but it starts with your thinking processes. On Sunday, please join me as as we have our service, 11 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. Listen, your life must become better. This pandemic lockdown will turn out for your good, but only if you are expanding your thinking horizon. If you are not just watching telly, just stay with telly, but you're challenging yourself. You are getting new ideas into yourself, because telly just dump things on you. But I hope what you're watching is something that is expanding the horizon of your thinking. So this review is going to be for 4 weeks, 2 weeks now. We got 2 more weeks. This summary engagement on Thinking for a Change by John Maxwell. Check it out on Amazon. It will bless you. You can buy it. It will bless you. Thank you for joining me for tonight. See you again during the Empowerment Hour on Wednesday, Sunday service on Sunday, and another Awaken the Leadership in You next week. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.